Ciao Juventini, welcome to episode 131, the all JuveCast, and we're going to be chatting Juve as always and doing the post-match recap on Juventus versus Udinese, which ended up in a very, very nice result, 4-1. Now, this result had Juventini split again on social media. You've got those that were just not happy and really, really upset considering it was a 4-1 win. Very strange, but I get it. First half frustration, second half a little bit better, but we're going to cover it all. We're going to get into all the stories, all the discussions. And I got with me making his debut on the All UV cast, Josh. How's it going, man? And you're coming to me from out east, so thank you for that because it's past midnight there.
Wouldn't miss it for the world. Talking Juve, it sounds like a dream.
Yeah, man, it's awesome, man. And you're actually in the town I was born in, London, Ontario.
Boom.
So that's awesome, man. Now, we got a little bit of a tradition around here, and that's first-timers. We always love hearing how you became a fan of Juve. So if you've got, if you don't mind, hit us with your story.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a lot of topics, so I don't want to spend too much time on this. But I'm a young duck, nice 22 years old, and I became a fan of Juve when I was about 14, I think. But I started watching the beautiful game back when I was 8 years old in that fantastic 06 World Cup. I think so many people know. And from that 06 World Cup, I was sitting in my bedroom with my mom. We were chanting and screaming up the TV. She was pregnant with my little brother at the time. And there were like a few things that I specifically remember about that World Cup. We got the big Buffon save off that Zidane header. I specifically remember cheering about that. We have the incredible Del Piero run right against Germany. That was like an incredible memory. And then Cannavaro was a big favorite for both of us just because he was, one, I'm a short man. We got that short, beautiful defender as Cannavaro was. And he was just an absolute rock. So those were like a few players that I remembered. But I didn't actually watch. I was horrible at playing. I was like just not a good player whatsoever. So when I played really badly, my passion kind of dipped a little. Fake fan. I'm sorry. What can I do?
Yeah.
But then I was like in grade 8, this is like the first year I moved to Canada. I didn't know many people, but there was this one guy who was in my class and the Euros were happening and they were coming up, Euro 2012. And he started trash talking Italy and something in me just like blurted up. And I was just talking back to him. I was like, what are you on about? Italy is the best team in the world. I don't know any other players right now, but they're the best team in the world. Anyway, I started watching and then I recognized Buffon and I recognized Pirlo as my two biggest ones on the team. And then my mom's from Bari, so Cassano as well was a big person for her. So I recognized those two. And that was the year that I bought my FIFA game and I was like looking through FIFA and I was like, Buffon and Pirlo are here. Okay, I'll pick Juve because they're my absolute favorite players that I'm in love with. My mom was always a fan she never had a specific team. She was always just players that she loved, and that was the players she would follow. So I kind of took after that mold, but I fell in love with the black and white stripes so quickly because the first game that I happened to watch ended up being the Juve Udinese game where Pogba scored those two like absolute rippers.
Oh, yeah.
And I fell in love with Pogba on that day. And I just started watching them like every single week. And man.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So yeah, again, the ties to the Azzurri from 06, draw and lure, some exposure to Juve. We had quite a few on that squad. And then, that's funny, man. Another story with these youngsters in FIFA and just picking Juve in FIFA and going from there. And I could totally see it as a young guy too. Like that squad with Pogba, Dybala, Morata, like it'd be easy, really easy as a young guy to get behind that club. And they were all ballers at the time doing all for us. So that's cool, man. Thanks for sharing the story.
Thank you. It's funny because I don't play FIFA anymore. I grew out of the game.
It's good to have you on, and let's get to this one. Let's start off with the starting lineups. So basically, we had a good idea of what we were going to see. There was reports coming out, and it was only a couple changes leading up to this match. So there was only a couple possibilities, a couple positions that were uncertain, and that was the wingback position and up top. Otherwise, everything else remained mostly the same, with Szczesny in goal, Danilo, Bonucci, De Ligt, with Sandro as the left wing back, Chiesa or Kulishevsky as right wing back. That was one of the positions that was in question. Then you had Big Mac, Weston McKennie, Rodrigo Bentancur, Ramsey in the middle, with Morata and Ronaldo up top, but then another report saying Dybala, Ronaldo up top. And what we ended up getting, it was Chiesa and it was Dybala. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, I had no issues with the lineup. It is Udinese. I thought, let's go, just get everything going, get the job done, look ahead to this Milan match, but obviously get the job done before we look ahead. Do it convincingly, get some rest for certain guys so that they can get ready for the midweek matchup. My expectation going into this, I called a 3-1 victory for Juve. I called Ronaldo scoring the first goal of 2021 for Juve, and I was pretty damn close. What was your prediction? How did you think? What did you think was going to happen? And what were your thoughts with the lineup? I was happy with the lineup personally. So, what did you think when you saw the lineup? What was your prediction?
Yeah, I liked the lineup when it came out. When I saw Morata was injured, I was a little concerned for my prediction just because Dybala has been hot and cold, but I was feeling a 4-0 win for Juve in this game. Wow. I wanted them coming out guns blazing. And when, well, I don't know, we'll get into it, but yeah, I was feeling they were going to come out guns blazing. When Morata was out, a little bit of doubt, but we got the boy Dybala. So
yeah,
we got
so 4-0. That is mighty ambitious. I like it, but yeah, let's. You weren't far off either. So we'll get into all this. And for all the listeners too, just want to point out we are recording this one live. We got a few joining us live as well. So get your comments, get your questions in as we're doing this live. I want to just quickly let everybody know. Obviously, when you do things live, anything can happen. One time we had one of the guests with their mic kind of have some issues. I apologize. Thank you everyone for enduring that. But these things do happen, unfortunately, from time to time. So we try our best to make it go as smooth as possible. The other reason I'm pointing out we're live is because there's going to be a lot more of that now for the rest of the season. Live pre-match coverage, the day before match day with the Buonasera Bianconeri, and more live podcasts for more interaction. So yeah, just want to point that out. And without further ado, let's get to the recap of the match, and we'll start right out of the gate. Pretty active right out of the gate. A little bit of back and forth. Ronaldo gets an opportunity, I think a couple minutes in. We get a really hard foul on Dybala, I think 5 minutes in, and I'm thinking, look, regardless, this challenge was so late and it was just over the top. That's a yellow, and I don't care if it's his first challenge in this match. That guy's got to get a yellow there. So the ref kind of setting the tone that it's going to be pretty lenient out there. So setting that tone. 6 minutes in, Ramsey has to score there. We get the ball in an advanced position. Chiesa ends up being this guy. He has the ball in, and Ramsey's all alone. So I guess Dybala worked it in, gets a shot. It deflects upwards. Chiesa's onto it and has a one-time cross in. And Ramsey's gotta at least put the thing on target.
It was such a weird shot. I thought he just fluffed the shot. I didn't even realize.
In the beginning, it was. I expect better from Ramsey there. And it's funny, we talked about that foul on Dybala needing to be a yellow, regardless of first challenge or not. 7th minute, then Chiesa gets a yellow instantly right after he's let that go. So it's kind of like, okay, what's this ref doing here? But
To be fair,
crazy
that was
quick little start. And then to
last
add to
man.
it, yeah, and then to add to it, 10th minute, and Rodrigo de Paul makes a great run. It's funny because in my preview I said, watch for this guy to actually have a good game, maybe even get a goal, because anytime Juve's linked to a guy, that's what happens.
Yeah.
And he makes a great run, to be honest. Plays it off, does a nice give and go with the fullback. And, we just looked bad. De Ligt jumped in and got beat on by DePaul, poked the ball ahead, ran onto it, slotted over to the fullback, made his run in. Bonucci was caught in no man's land. If he needed to close the gap on the ball, he needed to just do it like with conviction, and he didn't. He hesitated, and it was the wrong call. Ball gets crossed in, and DePaul finishes it very, very nicely. I'm pissed. But goes to review. They look at it, and it's a handball. And you got people on both sides here saying it is by rule, but it's pretty chintzy, and it should have been a goal. I personally don't agree with that. Only because he did get an advantage out of it.
Yeah.
So regardless of if it hit it incidentally or it hit something else that's in play first and then his hand, he got an advantageous bounce out of it, and I think you have to call that. So I thought was a right call. Am I biased? 100%, but I would have understood it if it went against us. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was watching it. The goal, I was shouting at the TV because just even if he didn't close it down, I've seen so many defenders just get a foot out and block the cross. I don't know, just he could have done so much more there. I expect more from a defender who was considered world class just like 2 years ago. I know his standards are higher. It was a handball. It was going away from him. He hit it back in place. It may not have been on purpose, but if he didn't hit it with his hand, that was going away from him.
I agree. Absolutely. So we get a little bit of a warning shot there, a little bit of a wake-up call. Not anything that we're not used to by any means. Usually takes that little warning shot to really fully get us engaged. But it was very, very weird, from the 10th minute to the 30th. We looked good. We were in control, possession-wise, dominant. But we always looked fragile at the back. And positionally, there was a lot of strange things happening at the back where De Ligt would almost run past Bonucci to take somebody on or challenge that rather than them all slot across naturally and stay in this unison line involving Sandro. Instead, it just kind of looked like everybody was everywhere, and it played into the middle as well with Bentancur and McKennie, and structurally not sound and defensively looking suspect. Offensively, I honestly thought we looked good. We just lacked that decision, that quick, decisive decision-making, in the final third. We waited too long. Plays were going dead. We were stalling ourselves out. There was a lot of good work up until that point, but we just needed something more up top. There was a weird positional thing too happening on the right side between McKennie and Chiesa, and we kind of rendered Chiesa not as effective as he should have been. We were almost taking him out of the game, ourselves. So I expected Pirlo to kind of sort that out. Regardless of all this, it was seemingly out of nowhere in the 30th minute. Ronaldo gets the ball fall to his feet after Ramsey wins a challenge off the throw-in, and he gives you that direct approach.
Yeah.
He didn't hesitate for a second. Boom, ball at my feet. I'm running at these D-men. Runs at him, makes his cut. Even though you know it's coming, it's next to impossible to stop. He makes a beauty hit, puts us up 1-0, and that's the goal that ties Pele. for him all time. So that was the Pele tying goal. And man, beauty. We're 1-0 up, and it could get better, but that's what we needed, especially after the DePaul scare. We needed that goal. Beautiful, beautiful goal. Ramsey was doing well. He had a couple instances where he was misjudging the ball in critical scenarios, but overall, his work rate, he was one of the standouts in the first half.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure, him and Ronaldo standing out for sure from the get-go. Really finish off the half, 36th minute. A nice little give and go between McKennie and Ramsey. Ramsey rips a hit and forces a save out of the keeper. We kind of go into half like that. And honestly, that's all I could say was the same I said earlier. We were in control, but still just suspect defensively.
Yeah.
And in the final third, we needed to be a little more sharp. Some positionally strange things to see, and I felt we needed to get Chiesa involved more. Other than that, I was okay with the first half. I wasn't like absolutely pumped, but we had a 1-0 lead. We were in control. We just need to really kick up the tempo and be a little more decisive final third. Yeah. What were your thoughts at halftime?
Yeah, I stand by. I noticed that the first 15 minutes was really shaky. Udinese was just in the game. I noticed after 15 minutes, just like you said, it was like that 15 to 30, they started winning the midfield back. That's when they started pulling things together, and that ended up leading to the goal at like the 30 or so minute. That Chiesa McKennie one on the right, that was an awkward positioning because the whole half I was just wondering, like, why are we not using our wings? When Cuadrado plays, we use the wings like crazy, like overusing them, but he's not on the field, and there's just this positional funk happening, and it's all through the center. Like, they're trying to hit the wing, and it's just not working so well. And then the other one was the whole Dybala Ramsey back and forth. I think that happened a lot more in the second half. But yeah, it was just an interesting play. It was definitely really different than having a focal point in the attack, having those two on the field together. Because it was like Ramsey was playing as the striker, like for more than Dybala was.
The thing is that I saw a lot of good out of it.
Yeah.
I liked what was happening. The only thing I didn't like was that Dybala was not reciprocating the movements. So when Ramsey became the link, Dybala was not up top, where he should have been. But when Dybala was the link, Ramsey was recognizing that and getting up there. Yeah. So I liked that aspect. I liked what was trying to get developed, but it wasn't happening from Dybala's side. And honestly, it didn't happen until later on. But then we saw a change in the second half, which we'll get to, a slight alteration that started to affect that a little bit more. But I actually liked the two, and what was happening. It just, we needed Dybala to accept that and go further up when Ramsey was becoming the link. So that's an interesting one, which we will get to later, which is obviously the Dybala Ramsey thing. But that's a good shout, and definitely need to get Chiesa involved. So we get to the second half. RB Comps joining us. Forza Juve, RB Comps, what's up, man? Good to have you join us. And so we come out of half, and man, again, we're not left waiting too long. 48th minute, and we win the ball in the middle. We find CR7. CR7 takes a quick look, and Chiesa's just blazing, absolutely blazing up there. And CR makes a great little outside of the boot chipper pass. Chiesa runs onto it, left-footed, and beauty run, beauty finish. 2-0 up, all right? And that's right where we want to be. Iskander, greetings from Singapore. Great to see you, buddy. Thanks for joining us. And Luis DeVito, what's up, man? And, here we go. 2-0 up. Beautiful goal. Beautiful goal. Starting to get a better feeling now because Juve was obviously the last team to play today. We saw what our rivals did. They're keeping the points coming. We needed to do it too. 2-0 up, feel a lot better. And as we move on after this goal, 51st minute, Ramsey, again, we're just putting the pressure on. And the interesting thing that we were seeing, and what I was seeing from this is, you talked about it too, is not having a focal point when you have that 9 like Morata up top there, right? So you have Morata up there, you got a focal point. He kind of really sticks to that position. As of late, we've seen him start to run some interchanges with Ronaldo and a little bit more freedom, right? But in this one, what was happening, and again, going back to the Dybala-Ramsey thing, guy dropping back for a link, one of those other guys making the runs. In the second half, right out of the gate, we had Chiesa slide in more, a little bit more centrally, and he made himself available to start making these runs too. I don't know if that's successful without Dybala also dropping back and becoming a link. It was almost like we were sucking that back line forward. It was almost like we were sucking them forward in order to get those runs in behind. Runs by Ramsey, runs by Chiesa. You could see it. So it's interesting. And it's going to be interesting to see if this is the approach in the matches that aren't going to be so open, right? So when you have these teams that want to park it, it's going to be interesting. We start dropping back with a guy in order to make someone else make that overlapping run and just take it in behind, right? It's going to be very, very interesting. It creates like a pick your poison type thing, right? Because if all of a sudden you have Ramsey with space or Dybala with space, they can pick you apart. So sooner or later, you're going to have to get advanced to them. And what does that do? That's going to open up a space for CR, Chiesa, Morata when he is in there. So it's going to be interesting to see. And I kind of liked that aspect. And it was one positive that I did see out of what they were doing, is trying to manipulate that. So it was good. Ramsey, in the 51st minute, again, pressing, great through ball. I believe it was Chiesa on this one, sending him in, has his go, stopped, and gets back up, picks it up, turns, fires. Here we are, 3-0. Nope, handball. And you know what? Again, I get it, because you get a lot of people are saying it's chintzy, it's a brutal handball. I get it. But again, it was advantageous for him. Because if it doesn't hit his hand, it's probably going past him. Would have given him a hell of a lot more work. Maybe the defender gets it first. So you got to call. Right call, in my opinion. Would you agree?
Yeah, fully. I like when it was the replay, I saw it was a handball, and I was like, oh, well, that's it. No more celebrating.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So, but again, Ramsey, Chiesa, like the second half was night and day out of the start there. So it was way better tempo, way better pace. And again, we started to see these sequences of what they were trying to do by pulling up that defensive line. 56th minute, 5 minutes later, Udinese gives us a bit of a scare with a seemingly nothing cross in. And a guy getting up in the air to this, heading it, and it going off the bar. It absolutely froze Szczesny. There was no way he was getting to it. And Sandro just kind of running alongside this guy. Didn't get up for it or anything. Just the guy had a free header from pretty much the spot. So, yeah, frustrating, but we get lucky there. 65th minute, Arthur comes in, and Big Mac, McKennie coming out. McKennie, not his best outing. We talked about it in the first half. A little bit off positionally. It was a weird one. Not his best day. I think you could tell when he got subbed off. He was kind of feeling it too, just from the body language and whatnot. But it is what it is, and I still like everything he brings to this side. So, but nonetheless, Arthur coming in, which is also good because if we remember, Arthur got injured. So good to see him actually back, able to play, get some minutes. He's still a guy I personally expect more out of. So we'll see what ends up happening. So 65th minute, we get that sub, Arthur in, McKennie out. 69th minute, a very nice win by Bentancur. who slots it forward to CR7, who makes no mistake, who passes Pele on the all-time goal scorer list. And there you go, 3-0. This one's sealed. It's dusted. I'm comfortable now. We're good. Let's see it out. Let's get some changes, seal it up, right?
Yep.
So all of a sudden, 72nd minute, and we just get, again, this is something I talked about earlier in the match too. It's like we score a goal, and we just have this huge letdown almost immediately, right? And it's just, it's the strangest thing. But this has been happening. This is like almost like been Juve for many, many years, right? It's like you score a goal, and then just this big, big drop in focus, intensity, and just this huge letdown. Well, 72nd minute, 3 minutes after we scored, Zegular goes off the crossbar for Udinese, and just shocking defending. We had an extra guy as well, and it starts out on the wing, ball comes in, and between Bentancur, Bonucci, De Ligt, those three specifically, it was an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
Bentancur did not follow his guy in. I doubt the only way he would have had to stop marking his man is if De Ligt would have called him off, because De Ligt was in the same space. I highly doubt De Ligt called Bentancur off, because De Ligt started running, following that ball to every point that, like, you're running by two other guys to get there. Communicate. Just sort it out. It was like we had two guys playing zone, one guy trying to play man-to-man, and two other guys just sleeping. It was a nightmare, man. It was terrible. But Bonucci literally just stayed in one spot, and De Ligt was running across all these points. I'm like, why wouldn't it be easier to just get Bonucci to move 5 feet over and take that guy, and naturally Bentancur would just slide over to the guy that's right next to him, and then De Ligt could kind of hang out in that zone. It was a shit show. Absolute free-for-all. Shocking defending, man. And it's crazy to watch. It's actually crazy to watch that when it happens like that. We get lucky. They hit the crossbar. They had a couple other shots that got blocked and whatnot. Eventually goes out for a throw-in, and you're thinking, my God, what is that? Like, it's crazy. And you can hear the shouts for Buffon starting by more and more Juventini, as that's been picking up because of, man, I fail to believe that it's coincidence that those two matches we were just so organized.
Yeah.
And one of the matches was against Barca, so we can't throw shade at the opponents, even though Barca is not the Barca they once were. Still top team. It's a Champions League match still, and it was a big one. So I don't know. But we get out of this scenario. Still 3-0. 74th minute, Kulusevski comes in and Bernardeschi come in. Ramsey and Chiesa go out. Two guys that had great matches. Ramsey and Chiesa. Kulusevski, Bernardeschi coming in. And then 83rd minute, Chiellini and Frabotta come in. Bonucci and Sandro go out. So we've had quite a few changes. All 5 subs being used. And shortly after that substitution, about 6 minutes later, Udinese finds a goal. Zegular scores, and this was a cross that probably should have been eaten up by Tech. But Frabotta got dummied at the side there.
Very bad.
Bit on that fake so hard. I thought he was going to literally jump into the stands and just walk right out of the pit, or walk right out of the stadium. He was beat so bad. Right out of his shoes there. But anyways, cross goes in. Chiellini and De Ligt got their wires crossed on guys. Everybody was kind of just standing still. It wasn't really clear who was supposed to mark who. Anyways, he ends up sweeping it in. Easy goal for him after Tech had it go off his hands and slip to him. There you go, 3-1. crappy that would be a goal. Probably bring us down a bit to end this one. But 90th plus 3, and Udinese absolutely sleeping at the back with us in possession. They literally left Dybala all alone. We make one pass back and one straight forward to Dybala, who runs in and on his weak foot, slots home and buries nicely. 4-1. And that's how you finish. Dybala scores. Cue the music. Storia di un grande amore right after he scores. I like that. He even gives you a little quadrado dance. All right. Take it easy.
A little bit of a mask too.
Yeah.
Can't forget it.
But was this the best performance? No. But again, there's more we are learning, and there's still more evidence of what we already knew, which we're going to cover now as we get into all these other topics. Overall, what we needed to do was get some subs in, rest some guys. We got the 4-1 victory. We got the 3 points. This was huge. And now we got to look ahead to Milan and figure out how we're going to attack them. But overall, was it the best performance? No, but it was what we needed. Multiple goals. Get Dybala going, because no matter what, we're going to need him throughout these crucial parts of the season. And, like I said, able to get some subs and get Chiellini a few minutes. Kulusevski and Bernardeschi, not enough time in this one to really figure anything out from them. I thought Bernardeschi looked good. I still think he's been doing well since the Azzurri break. Think he might be getting less minutes because they want to ship him out. And there's talks about him for Papu Gomez, lots of talks, but we did what we needed to do. Again, we talked about earlier, lots of Juventini split. A lot of Juventini still felt not impressed whatsoever with this one. I saw some positives that I mentioned throughout this one. I think it just, again, needs work. But I think we're going to start getting less tinkering with starting lineups. I think you're going to start seeing that we're going to have a solid core and a couple minimal changes from match to match is personally what I think's going to start happening. And I think it's the right move, and I think it's going to help us, to be honest. But what were your thoughts at full time, Josh?
Yeah, at full time, I mean, the goal that they scored brought the tempo down a little bit, or I guess the feel of the whole game down a little bit. When I rewatched it back and I saw that goal and I saw Danilo standing still, it irked me, because it was standing still, saw Chesney had the first save, and then he just froze still. He could have moved, he could have marked. That irked me, because that was a lot of what we saw just overall in the night from the defending standpoint. But it was a good game. It gave me some flashbacks to the Sampdoria game, just the really high pressure that we were doing in the attack, because you could see the midfield line was so high. You had Artur and Benta playing where the strikers should have been at points. They were playing such a high line, which really left us exposed to counterattacks. So that was one big thing that I was taking out of it, which I know is the way that Pirlo is looking like he wants to go, really high risk, high reward style. So I think that's still a little bit of a concern moving forward if we had against better opposition than Udinese. But I'm satisfied with the game overall. I think for the most part, everybody played a decent match. There were some really standout players, some had a poor game, but it was overall, if you could take that and grow on it, I'm quite satisfied moving forward. Good way to start it off. 2021.
Yeah, I agree. We have some guests here saying, Iskander is not comfortable with the formation that we play with the squad we have right now. And I get it. The jury's still out on this formation and whatnot. But to be honest, I feel it's too late, and we have literally no margin for error in the month of January. So to try to make a shift now, I think would honestly be the nail in the coffin. I can't see it happening. He's pot committed right now to ride this one out, Pirlo, in my opinion. What do you think about that, Josh?
I mean, what happened with Sarri last year? He was writing his work, and then something happened. A poor result came in, and he just switched it, and he went more defensive. He stopped playing the way that he wanted, that whole Sarri ball style, and that ended up being the nail in the coffin for him. He started losing the dressing room more. He started getting more of the fans on his back, and started losing faith in himself. And he got sacked at the end. So. Yeah. I don't think Pirlo needs to change. It's not that it's not been working. It's been rusty.
It's these lapses.
Yeah.
Lapses that continue to happen. For some reason, consistency has been a growing issue with Juve over the past several seasons. Does not help the coaching changes. And that's why I say sooner or later, Juve is just going to have to stick to their guns on somebody, because if you keep going through this, it's just going to be a nightmare, right? Lewis writes in his thoughts on the match. Not bad, not great. Most importantly, think the win, obviously, but with Morata over Dybala is the best 11 at the moment. The positive comes in the halftime adjustments. I'm glad that he brought that up. We talked about it. The adjustments made with Chiesa and what was happening on the right side, and us essentially rendering him useless in the first half, getting him more engaged, finding a way to get him involved was key. And props to Pirlo, because I have criticized him on adjustments throughout this season, and I've criticized him on his ability to read matches and what's happening so far and be able to adapt to them and make these also saw Dybala and Ramsey interchanging. Obviously, we only saw it for a bit because Ramsey ended up getting subbed out at the 74th, but it was much, much better. Whereas in the first half, Paulo was not interchanging with him. In the second half, he did start to do that quite nicely. So it was really, really good. And you could see the confusion it was creating for Udinese. So again, something to start looking for, everybody, when we start playing teams at Park the Bus. If we're going to start trying to do that same thing with working off the low link, pass back to a mid, and then somebody else running in behind that defender. So it'll be really interesting to see that. But yeah, Lewis, I agree. That is probably our best 11. Yeah. But there are some arguments that can be made. And we're going to get to that, because we're going to get into player performances and the man of the match. So right now, for me, my man of the match would probably be Cristiano Ronaldo. Yeah. 2 goals and assist, but a threat from the get-go and just really switched on in this one. Who's your man of the match? Ronaldo?
Yeah, I gotta agree. It's more than just the goals and assists, because he's had games where he scored but not been involved too much. Yeah, he was involved here. He was holding the ball up pretty well. Not specifically as a hold-up striker, but more like when he gets the ball, holding, dribbling, making good passes. For the most part, he wasn't over-dribbling, and it was a solid game.
Yeah. The player that seemed to draw quite a bit of drastic, and that's just the way it's been for this guy, but drastic sides here. Paulo Dybala. Yeah. In my opinion, he had a good game, a really good game. I will agree to many Juventini that it's still not up to his standards, but it was a good game. I think it's harsh if we say he had a pretty bad game, which was what a lot of what I was reading. I disagree with that. I actually think he had a good match. The second half, especially. And in the first match, we talked about it. There was organizational issues and positional issues, which affected not only him, but Chiesa, other guys. McKennie seemed to be off as well. But I think Dybala had a good game. And I think it's, again, just this contract thing looming around that's maybe swaying some opinions or whatnot, but I thought he had a good game. I'm
a slightly biased. I love Dybala with all my heart. But yeah, he's definitely like the criticism one, just because he has such a high standard for what we want out of him and what we want him to be. But I think the biggest difference with this match and matches that were happening earlier in the season was like beyond all the contractor head, he looked so slow in the first half of the season. Like his body language, his legs, you could like feel him carrying iron in his like socks. Whereas this game, he looked lighter on his feet. He was actually making good passes. You know, he wasn't missing every touch he made. That's what I was more excited about. I'm sure the positioning will come later on should his head be there more and more. But I do think it's going to come. The physical, I don't want to make an excuse for like his performances being all about his health. But like, I don't know, he's training harder now. He must be, because physically he just looks better.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of things, at play there, but we're going to need him. We're going to need him. There's not a lot of backup, even if we bring in one striker in this Mercado, which is open now, by the way. So strap on your seatbelts for this bumpy ride because winter Mercado has begun. And
oh, man.
I don't expect a lot to happen, honestly. I think like one move and maybe a couple future prospect moves.
Yep.
That's about it, but probably one that'll actually come into the lineup, in my opinion, and it's probably going to be a forward. But yeah, I mean, so we agree on Dybala. I think he had a good game, not up to his standards by any means, but a good game, good showing.
One big thing that I just like he brings that no one else on our team brings is he can hit a cross-field pass, and he'll get it to their feet, and he'll get it quickly. He doesn't do it every time, but he can do it. That is such an important part of his game.
He's very good at switching the field, finding the guy. Again, there was a couple instances of that in the first half where, again, the decision-making at the end really, really is what hurt us, right? A lot of fans just hung up on, they just need the stats. They need the goals out of him. They need the assists and whatnot. He does bring a lot that is hard to quantify statistically, but you do have to make a call somewhere along the lines. And the tough thing with Dybala is that right now it's said, and if you looked at this from a working aspect and it was your job, De Ligt's contract when he comes in, and by no means am I saying De Ligt is not worth the money, because I'm not saying that at all, but he's getting paid more than Dybala. Obviously, this is where things fall in along the lines. Dybala, where he sees himself standing with the club, what they keep saying. But you do have a guy that's younger, that doesn't have the history with the club, that doesn't have the loyalty, and he's come in and now he's making more. You also have other guys kind of making the same money as it stands that have no ties to Juve and came in on frees and whatnot. So it's like you could kind of get that if you were in your place of work. And all of a sudden, a new guy comes in, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. These guys are all making more than me. I'm sitting here. I think my value's up more. You could kind of get that. At the same token, you really got to look at the club as a whole here, and is it time? Because sometimes it's just time to make that move, cash in, and see if we can fill more holes or whatnot in the club. But this is why I say, and I'm sticking to my guns, it's too early to make that call right now. I think we really need to see what we're going to do. Not only that, we don't have the backup to make this move in this winter Mercado. So Dybala in the summer, you could talk about it. But another thing is, if it's a swap move, you still need to replace this guy. And then all those things that you can't quantify statistically need to come into effect, because you still need to build a team. So there's a lot of things. Do we need to fix other areas? Left back, right back, center backs, as we've got a guy that's always getting into Chiellini. I talked about it on one of the Buonasera Bianconeris. They're talking about extending Chiellini for another year because of his dressing room, what he means to the dressing room, and Pirlo wants him in the locker room. Give him a goddamn job then. Don't take a roster spot. His body can't physically do it. But this is what I mean. There's a lot of context that's going to be coming to light from now until the end of the season. So let's just wait to see if it is in fact going to be the best move. Because a lot of things can change, and I still think we're missing a few key items, but we have multiple holes to fill, right? And right now, you have nobody to back up. So Dybala, and then the other thing is too, are we going to commit that money to keeping Morata? Because he might go away as well. So, I think we have a second-year option on Morata, so he could even stay for the second option on the loan before purchasing, which is fine. But I think it's still too early to stay, and I will stick to my guns on that. As far as player performances, another guy, Rodrigo Bentancur. Bentancur getting a lot of praise for this match. I think he was solid. I think he had a solid match. But defensively, especially in and around our area, he was really, really bad in my opinion. Asleep at the wheel on many occasions. I don't attribute it all to him. I think, again, as we've talked about, there is honestly organizational issues and leadership issues coming from the back. So Bentancur, overall, a solid performance, but needs work at the back.
Yeah, he runs hard. He runs really hard. That you can't fault him. He puts in the effort.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He worked his ass off. He did a lot of good, but these errors creep up.
Yeah,
at the back there. But I talked about it. Issues at the back, organizationally, everything. I got eyes on a leader. Bonucci. Is it time to sit Bonucci? In all seriousness. I think he's doing more harm than good. And I think it's time to sit Bonucci.
Yeah.
I would take a one-legged Chiellini over Bonucci right now. And it's an easy decision to me. I would give Dragusin more minutes, especially in matches against Udinese, than play Bonucci. Man, honestly, what are your thoughts at the back and Bonucci?
Such a tough one. I know
Does he make your starting 11? Does he make your starting 11 with everybody fit?
If everyone is healthy right now, no, because even the talk, and I know you've talked about it extensively, the whole talk of his technical ability, I haven't even seen it. The last 2 years, his long passes have been killing me. He rarely hits them anyway. I think De Ligt's been doing them better. More, don't quote me on this, but I'd say he's been more accurate with them. The upfield passes, but he's been so poor. But that's the biggest argument is we don't have defenders. And I know there's a lot of talk on we have to stick to a formation, but it's also rough on these guys. This month, especially every 3 days, there's going to need to be a lot of rotation. So he's going to need to play. It's hard to sit him when we're so low on options. So I worry because Chiellini, you try to push him a little too hard. You put him in 2 games in a row and he'll pick up an injury, and then we're really locked down. Demiral's still not fully ready. Dragusin, we have no idea. So it's such a tough one. I do like Danilo, though. Because he's just been so good. I fully trust him at center back over Bonucci.
Well, that's just it. When I look at everybody, okay, I'd even be more confident De Ligt holding down the main center back position. I'd be confident in pulling Sandro back to be one of those center backs. Chiellini and him could rotate on the left side at center back. Danilo, I'm confident in the right. Then as Demiral gets back, you have Demiral as well. You have Dragusin as well. I just think banking on Leonardo Bonucci is going to be it's going to be what Pirlo probably lives or dies by, really.
It's going to be what the dressing room lives or dies by.
And man, honestly, if you're going to have Bonucci in there, you better have Buffon in the friggin' goal.
Good shout.
Because that's the only time he's looked worth a penny. to be honest. And it's got to be much, much better from Bonucci. But it's interesting. Sandro today, and you even brought it up. You want to talk about, does he get too much credit for how good he is defensively? Because we still see him struggle. Here's the thing with Sandro that I've talked about a lot, because people seem it's funny. You start to get labeled that you have agendas like against certain players or whatnot, or you're biased and whatnot. But honestly, what it comes down to is I have no bias against Sandro, against any other players. What I do is see the same thing. If I see the same thing over and over and over, I'm going to point it out and I'm going to call guys out on it. The thing with Sandro that is so frustrating is he got defended so much against me. Okay, people defending him when I'd come after him or criticize him because he gets overused and he doesn't get rest, and we need him fully fit. What is the excuse for him moving like he's wearing a 500-pound weighted vest on today? Seriously, it looked like I couldn't believe it. I'm like, it looks like he can barely move, and it's the first match after the Christmas break.
I don't know what it is. Like, under Allegri, Juventus had one of the most fit teams in all of Europe. Like, when you thought like players were coming in and you'd see all like the social media postings about like players are exhausted in the training sessions because of how intense they train, right? And how like well the team is able to move. But just the last year and a half, there have been players who have looked like slugs on the field. It's been the weirdest. I don't know what's going on. I know he recovered. He had an injury, but it's been what, a month or so since he's recovered. Maybe that's longer, but such a strange one for him.
Man, it's the same things too. It's getting back, like the tracking back. It's the giving up free headers in the air. Like it's weird. Like, and it's the one thing I will say of his game. Like, it's the best part of his game is the defensive stability, but it's not always there. And he's got a lot of brain farts too. But overall with him, I mean, the pros do outweigh the cons. But he's a guy I would consider selling. Like, it still blows my mind when we look back to a few seasons ago when he had this massive value, and I was just like, sell him.
Yeah,
like
I was in the camp to keep.
Oh man, it was crazy. But he's weird, man. It is a weird one. It's a weird one to see a guy move like that when we're just so fresh. So it's like, what's the excuse now?
Yeah, just even the playing is especially weird because of how well he kicked off those first two seasons, and then just something declicked, and then he just became so much slower. It was such a weird change for him. But the biggest thing is he's more than the defense. Like, so the defending, he has the blips. He has cost us quite a few own goals as well. I know in the last game he had an own goal. Yes. You can't blame him fully, but it's the way he's marking as well. I don't know. He always lets the defenders get in front when he's trying to defend crosses. That's the weirdest thing for me. It's consistently I see with him.
Yeah, I mean, and some of those own goals are tough because of everything that's happened before that point, right? And I mean, the one you're referring to too, he's like pretty much right on the goal line, I think, if I remember correctly. It's like next to impossible for him to really do anything, but I get you. Sometimes the back post coverage is not where it needs to be. But this is kind of the thing with the player performances is it's a weird one. Bernardeschi, we talked about Bernardeschi. He's another guy. He's been doing well. He's on a bit of an upward trend, but he's not getting the minutes. Kulishevsky, I expect more out of.
So much more.
And it's funny because I see a lot of that now. I see a lot of Chiesa, guys that didn't want Chiesa whatsoever, and now they're just like flipping the script, right? Because they're like, wow, I would have expected this to be the other way. I would expect Kulishevsky to be soaring and us wanting more out of Chiesa. And it's the opposite. Kulishevsky, and I don't know if it's just the position Pirlo's playing him in. I've been shouting to get him in that Ramsey-esque position and to play that way. But Pirlo has hinted at some of the defensive issues from Kulishevsky. So it'll be interesting to see, but really need more out of him. Dybala and Ramsey. I know you wanted to talk about this, and I saw many Juventini saying they can't. I saw a few talk about it, saying that they can't share the pitch. Do you agree?
No, I don't agree. I think they can. I think tonight showed they can share the pitch. I think Dybala needs more practice trying to share the pitch. I think I watched Ramsey back in his Arsenal days quite a bit, and he's used to trying to do all these quick plays, especially up in the final third. I think Dybala needs a little more practice on that end of things. I guess the weirdest part is when you have Dybala and Ramsey, you know that there isn't going to be a bigger striker. And that was the biggest thing that this style of play usually has. Like, there's a big striker to help link it all together. So if Morata was in there as well, I feel like it would work so much better. But that's not Ronaldo's game, and you don't sit Ronaldo. So it's just one of those lineup issues we have. I don't think it's Dybala and Ramsey. I just think it's the overall team. That's what makes it a little off.
Yeah. I think what it is it changes. It changes so much in Pirlo's system based on who he has out there. It changes the point of attack. It changes how it all flows, how it all works. And I think that's part of why we see such drastic changes from match to match. I think they just need time and they need understanding amongst the groups of personnel. It's no different it's no different at the back, and it's no different up front. But when you have Ramsey and Dybala on the pitch, I think it'll work. And I think you're right, it showed today it can. They just, again, Dybala's understanding and interpretation needs to match Ramsey's. The other thing is they need to be very, very careful, because if you're going to be doing that, if Ramsey's the one advancing, then all of a sudden we're asking Dybala to do a little bit more defensively on any kind of counters or whatnot, just to help out and assist. Otherwise, those other two mids are going to get stretched out.
Yeah.
And if all of a sudden McKennie's already in an advanced position, Dybala has dropped, and Ramsey's up there, it's a dangerous game to play. You open yourself up. And that's kind of what happened today. You know, that's exactly kind of what happened in the first half. Second half, they made that slight alteration where McKennie kind of did stay back more, and Chiesa was that one that was kind of blazing up there, and it helped. So it's interesting, but I think that's the toughest part about this Juve, is that it changes drastically in Pirlo's setup based on who's out there. And the guys, that's really going to be up to the players and Pirlo to figure out and get that understanding of what they're going to achieve, how they're going to succeed with who's out there. Because if they try to do something the same with different moving parts, it's going to be a mess, and we've seen that. We've seen that at parts this season, right? So it's going to be really interesting, but I do think Dybala and Ramsey can share the pitch.
It'll be hard just because of how tight the schedule is. It's so hard to see him actually being able to pull that consistency, because the rotation is just going to be so drastic. And Ramsey's body can't keep up with consistency. Pirlo, I think, even mentioned it today. One game on, one game off.
That's the other thing, you know, banking on the guy, right? And the other thing too is Ramsey, like, he can give you these matches. You know, it's so funny. It's like, I play golf, okay? Am I a great golfer? Hell no. I'm usually frustrated a lot of the times I play, but then the last hole, I'll crush that drive. Boom. I'll hit like a beauty approach. I'll finish off strong, and it'll make me come back for more. And it's almost like that's what Ramsey does. You get to a point where you're so frustrated, but then all of a sudden it's like, boom, wow, that's the Ramsey I want all the time. But then all of a sudden you'll go back to frustrations for a while, and then it's like, boom, okay, this is the guy I want again. And he keeps you like, it's like just when you're about to say, yeah, no, we can't bank on Ramsey, it's like, boom, he's back
Made a
in your mind.
difference.
It's like, oh no, we need him, right?
And that's
It's
where his
funny. It's funny to
positioning.
watch, but like,
That's just it's just his positioning is what I saw. I don't know. It might have been you posted it on Twitter, or someone else, but it was Ramsey positionally is to die for. He knows where to run. He knows how to make space. His technique is where it's killing him. He just doesn't get his foot to the ball. He doesn't get that final pass off all that well. And I feel like Dybala is the exact opposite, where his technique is so clean, but the positioning is just not there. So that's also such a weird dynamic between the two of them.
Well, Ramsey, I talked about it in this one. He misjudged a few balls that would have been like key scoring opportunities.
Right.
And it's just like, how are you reading this ball? Like, it was crazy. He made a leg extension for a ball that was like, man, you got to keep running at it and settle at it. And he tried to extend to it. I don't know how all of a sudden you're running and you think you're like 8 feet tall and that your leg can reach that far. It was like the weirdest thing ever. I'm like, what's he doing?
He's so
it's weird, but you're right there. There's a bit of a switch there. Sometimes Ramsey, that goal today in the 6th minute, I think that should have been at bare minimum scoring opportunity on target, right? So it lets him down sometimes. But as we move on, we've got a question brought up by yourself. That's a great one. And it's, what does Pirlo bring as a coach? And we're going to open this up to the listeners that are joining us live and whatnot. And going back to the Ramsey thing, make shouts here that, Ramsey is a bit injury prone. Yeah. We touched on that. And then Dybala is a bit selfish, don't you think? I think, honestly, you could say that for all attackers at certain points of matches. And I mean, ultimately, the guys that can score goals will be selfish at times.
Yeah.
So it's hard. You could sit there and nitpick a long time if we're going to get into selfishness, right? Honestly, there's times Ronaldo's extremely selfish, but he gets the benefit of the doubt because he can bang them in, right?
Yeah.
So it's tough to get, say, a striker or attacker is selfish when it's part of what you need them to do is try to get goals, try to go for goals. Sometimes, you miss passes that you should be seeing or whatnot because you're focused on getting that goal off based on the position you're in. There's a lot happening too during the games. There's shouting going on. Yeah. Sometimes you just don't see it. Sometimes your vision fails you on passing. So it's a fine line to be going at saying a guy's selfish or not, right? That's a tough one.
Yeah, there's a reason Ronaldo scores 30 goals a season, and it's because he's not going to make that pass because when he has an eye for goal, he'll take it. And he won't score it every time. Anyway, I won't go into it. But
I just think you could say that any attacker is selfish at any...
It's what makes them do their job well. The thing with Dybala is, I think it's not even selfish. He's human. And I think he's a very emotional human where when he feels the pressure, he gets more selfish because he's trying to get himself back into it. Right?
I just think you could go either way on all attackers. You could find instances where they're selfish. You could find instances where you wish they were selfish. Like Morata's had plenty of those this season where I'm like, why are you trying to pass that through? Just have the shot yourself, right? I think you could find it going both ways for all attackers. Back to the question here. What does Pirlo bring as a coach? Now, this is interesting. And I think it's very hard to answer because we've only known Pirlo as a coach for such a short period of time, and we're starting to get some comments in here from some listeners here. So Pirlo brings a trust within the players, something that was lacking with Sarri. I agree. I think, Pirlo brings a cool, calm, collected approach. I think, he's obviously very, very stern in his belief of the system he wants to play. You haven't seen him waver from it. So I think with that's bringing a sense of confidence to the players. And I think just his persona, who he is, knowing a lot of these guys, his history with the club, has the belief amongst the guys. He's got the players on his side. As an actual coach, what does he bring though? This is interesting because when you think about certain coaches, you can see usually a lot of them in their teams. If you watch a Conte team, they're very motivated. They're usually heavily inspired. They will fight. They'll usually be a bitch to play against. If you think about Allegri's teams, they're flexible. They can adapt. They're usually the Allegri sides of Juventus had quite a bit of resolve. So yeah, you get a lot. But when you talk about Pirlo and Sarri, what did Sarri bring us? I don't know. Well, I guess you could say Juve reflected Sarri too, because they looked like they would rather wear a sweatsuit and sit on the couch smoking cigarettes for most of his tenure.
There you go.
So yeah, they kind of reflected the coach there. But
oh man,
seriously, Pirlo, it's very, very early to judge him. But not judging him, what does he bring as a coach? I think it's just that player first kind of mentality that at least these guys are going to back him and his beliefs. And I think after what happened with Sarri, that's probably the best thing that could have come from it, is that they got a guy that they're all happy with at least.
Yeah.
And, they'll be behind him and give it their all for him and whatnot. So he's got that. But as far as actual managerial stuff, it's hard. We've seen a guy that struggles on substitutions.
Yep.
Who he subs and when he makes those changes in certain matches. We saw a lot of tinkering at the start. But again, it's all very, very early. I think he just brings an attitude, a sense of belief, but a kind of a calm, cool, collected thing. Sometimes maybe too calm and cool, though.
Yeah.
And we need to kind of pick it up a bit, right? But what do you think he brings as a coach?
Yeah, I bring this up because I remember listening to a podcast at the very beginning of the season saying, how many more points does Conte bring Inter over Pirlo bringing to Juve? Which made me think now about what is Pirlo doing as our coach? How much benefit is he bringing to the team? I think the biggest one was the connection side of things. I think he's actually been pretty good for the most part, setting his team up and putting him on the pitch. His in-game changes have been quite poor. And I think everyone was expecting that, to be fair, because even as a player, he had his style and he died by his style. And I think that's reflecting as a manager right now. But he's been really good with the players. I remember Sarri last season, when the collapse against Milan, when we lost 4-2, the game after was also a collapse. We didn't win. We looked sluggish. I think, drew the game, and it didn't go back up for the rest of that season. Whereas Pirlo here, he pulled the players back in. He had the 2-week break, which definitely helped. Well, 1 week. But he pulled it back in. It wasn't a hard game, but it can become really hard. It's not like Udinese were being slouches in the game. They were getting chances, but the players fought. The players really put in an effort, and we didn't see that under another coach. So it's hard. I think you're right. If they have to reflect a coach, it's novelty. The team looks new. The team has fresh faces. And I think that's exactly what Pirlo is bringing, just something really new and just trying to formulate it all together. But yeah, in the end, it'll be how much can he get that going to the end of the season.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing too is, that mentality. He talks a lot about trying to get Juve back to that mentality, that fighting mentality, that they will fight till the end. We saw a little highlight clip of Buffon just yesterday, I believe, walking out to the training pitch, and he sent that message to the camera, that, hey, we're here. We're going to fight. This. We'll fight till the end. It's cool. We need that. But is Pirlo truly bringing that mentality? Is he really reflecting in this team? Because we've seen a team that's lacked discipline at certain key points of matches. And you start to think, are we really reflecting how he approached the game? Is it really his team yet? I don't really know. I still see a team that's struggling to find their identity. And maybe it goes back to how we talk about them playing in matches and how it changes drastically based on who's out on the pitch. Yep. So you might see a match based on who we have out there where you see a gritty Juve, one that's going to fight if we have the right mix. You might see one that's a little more flash and pizzazz, right? So it's I feel like we change a lot based on who's out there. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see, how things change with Pirlo at the helm and as the season goes on. But the true test is this month. No question. Okay. All those draws that we had, those frustrating draws that felt like losses, they do feel like losses this month because we have a crazy packed schedule in January. This is do or die month for Juventus as far as the 10th straight Scudetto is concerned, in my opinion. So this will really test Pirlo's mettle, really. And baptism by fire, seriously.
I wouldn't want to be in that shoe. That's a rough position to be.
Yeah, it's going to be a pressure cooker for him, and we'll see what happens. And it's going to kick off with Milan. But before we get to the Milan, which will be midweek here, I got a question. And everyone that's listening here live, you can get your questions answers into. What position and what player would you add to this current team if you could only add one for this Mercado? And let's say it's out of the guys that are rumored or whatnot.
Yeah.
Which position would you choose first off? And who's the player that you think would complement this side the best?
Yeah, it's hard because starting 11 wise, characteristically wise, I think we do need another midfielder. With our starting 11, if we have our best strikers out there, whether it's Dybala on form or Morata, either one of them on form can work with Ronaldo. That can be a good strike force, and we don't need a striker starting 11 wise. Midfield, we need somebody who can actually play a forward ball effectively, and who wasn't afraid to take the ball up. So what are the biggest names linked was Pogba, which for January, as much as I love the guy, most likely not going to happen. Then there's Aouar, Locatelli, and DePaul. I think Locatelli, just because I think DePaul is a little more of an attacking midfielder, and although that's has a lot of that creative flair, there's a lot of composure I'm afraid we're missing as well. We were hoping Artur was going to bring, hasn't been able to do it all that effectively just because he doesn't have the forward ball that Locatelli has. So I'd be happy with either him or DePaul. Really depends on which spot you throw them in, but I'm really thinking someone who's going to sit back and control a little more. I'd go with Locatelli. I like him. I've seen him. I think he's been holding really well, but definitely that characteristic wise.
Yeah. So creative midfielder, as some guests mentioned, Ozil, Papu, Aouar, Pogba are workable. I mean, and this is just all for fun. I mean, what position, what player you would add for the Mercado? I agree with you. I don't think Pogba, even in the summer, I think it's going to be a hard swing. I think it's just tough, like you'd have to purchase him in the summer. There's a possibility of a loan and then purchase from Man U, but it's funny because Juve's apparently, and this is all speculation and rumors and whatnot, apparently thrown out, like Ramsey and Rabiot for Pogba, or Bernardeschi and Costa and they're trying to like just nickel and dime this thing. And it's just like Man U's like, no, like we want a player, and they do want Dybala. Dybala, I feel, will only move to a Spanish club, possibly PSG as well. I just don't see him going to Man U.
I don't know why he would.
The other thing is creative midfielder or striker. I think we need another 9 outside of Morata, but I'm kind of on the fence after seeing a bit more of Ramsey, and again going back to this, what he leaves you with when he's on, type thing. It's a tough one. Will Dybala get going? That's another thing. Are we adding a striker for backup? Would we be benefiting more from adding a creative midfielder that would actually impact us, that isn't just a cover guy? You know what I mean? I would lean towards a creative midfielder. It's really, really tough. And I'm flipping back and forth because I think just a couple days ago I was leaning towards striker, getting a backup 9. But the thing is, as you think about it, it's a risk one way or another. If you were to add one, you're either banking on Dybala figuring it out and being the guy we need him to be, or you're banking on Ramsey showing you what he can, but consistently. So you're risking one way or another, right? But out of the guys we're linked for as a striker, I don't see guys that are going to really make that huge impact, to be honest. And we wouldn't need that. We would just need a guy that can come in, cover, be selfless and play for the team type thing. But if we get a solid creative midfielder, it could be a game breaker for this team. If you get the right guy. Papu Gomez for Bernardeschi. I know it's all hypothetical, it's all speculative, just rumors, whatnot. Would you do that move?
I mean, I wouldn't do a straight swap. That's for sure. Papu's rated at 10 million right now. Brendan still has a bit more value than that. That's really short-sighted. I would. I don't know. It's hard. Papu, the biggest thing is he's 33. He's played for Atalanta for the majority of his career. I don't even know if he would bring the same mental level to Juve if he came. There's no connection, no heart. He's been wanting to go to the Middle East for the last 2 years, and like, fair play to him, take a big payday, like pay off his family in this future. I don't know if he'd even be in the mental space to want to commit like a massive chunk of his career into Juve. That's also a big question to me. I feel he could come in and just be a bust, even though he has a lot of talent, because it's not Atalanta, the team that he's a legend for and he loves.
He's 32 years old.
Yeah.
Is another thing, right? But you're right on the value. I mean, the value's a lot different there. And I've got into this discussion with many Juventini, and they're saying if you're valuing Bernardeschi at 25 million, you're wrong. And I don't agree. He does hold good. He's got good value. The problem is Bernardeschi will not go to a lot of the clubs interested in him. That's the problem. Is he just won't go. He apparently, the rumors were at one point a few months back, he had opened up to joining either Milan or Roma. The issue is finding the guy we need out of there. And interestingly enough, I thought like Çalhanoğlu would probably be a guy. And there were rumors there. Çalhanoğlu was a rumor there, and I started thinking about it more and more. And I'm thinking, you watch, they pull a Bernardeschi Çalhanoğlu swap or something, because he would be an attacking midfielder. Creativeness, whether he's the guy people want or whatnot, he is. But Vishwajit brings up a good point. According to rumors, Llorente is about to come back, but that is useless. The guy's 35 and hasn't played for a while. Look, this is exactly why we're getting into this. Are we better off to bring a guy for coverage or a guy that could actually make an impact? So it's a tough one. I'm flipping back and forth on the coverage at striker, like getting another actual number 9, but I don't know. This also brings up the point about Dybala currently and how he's played and whatnot. I see Dybala almost being a guy that you play when CR7 kind of isn't in the fold, because then you get your 9 up there and Dybala can play off of him, whether it be Morata, whatnot. And Dybala needs to get it going. He needs to be better. I thought he did good in this match, but he needs to start doing it consistently. We're going to need him down the stretch. RB comps again, Llorente is a useless sign, and Gigi Buffon, the GOAT, of course. Always. No doubt. But it's interesting when you get into this discussion about what position, what player would you add, if only one for the Mercado. I've been going back and forth between striker and creative midfielder, but I think I'm set on creative midfielder for this team, because even if you look at these other guys, it's just we need one more guy other than Ramsey in there that can do it.
They just have the chance to make a difference in the starting 11. That's why I say it over the striker wholeheartedly. I mean, to be honest, Llorente is old and injured. The same goes for Ozil, was mentioned earlier. He hasn't played in like ages for Arsenal.
No, I don't even. Ozil's a joke to even
out.
That. Like out.
Yeah.
Out.
One striker though, I was thinking and Pirlo I think mentioned it today, was Giroud. I would love him. I don't think he would come. He loves London. I don't see him wanting to even make that swap, but he would be such a good backup for Morata.
Here's the thing. Giroud, I actually, like I've said on a few Buonasera Bianconeri episodes, he fits the bill because he's happy to come off the bench and he makes a good impact. He's an aerial threat and he is selfless when he plays. So he kind of checks a lot of things up. So it's interesting. Last and certainly not least, we got Milan ahead. Who do you start? Keep in mind, Morata is in doubt for this one. So who do you play? And RB Comp's coming in with, if we beat Milan on Wednesday, we can win Serie A. Absolutely. I still say, and I always have said this, even when things got rocky last season, I want to see these guys beat us. I don't give a shit about how many goals they put in on this team or that team and that we drew this team, but then they smash them or run out. I don't care. I want to see them do it against us.
Yep.
And these are the matches that will test this year's Juve and Pirlo.
Yep.
Who do you start in this match?
Oh man, it's such a hard question.
Let's kick it off with the goalkeeper. Do you start Buffon?
I wouldn't, but I mean that's mainly because of who I put in defense as well. So I would still keep Tech in goal. He's still reflexively better than Gigi at this point. Younger, better shot stopper. So I'd still put him in. I think if I had to trust one of them to make a save at this point in their careers, I'd probably trust Tech over Gigi. So I'm comfortable putting him in for this match.
So Tech's in for you. It's tough, man. I don't know if I go with Bonucci, De Ligt, and Danilo, I can't leave Tech back there. But I kind of want to go De Ligt, Chiellini, Danilo. And I kind of want to start Buffon.
Either way?
Yeah. I kind of want to go Buffon. I kind of want to go De Ligt, Chiellini, Danilo. I want Sandro at the left wing back. I want Chiesa as the right wing back. I think I want Arthur, Bentancur, and Ramsey in the middle.
Yeah, that's pretty much everything I put. Is Cuadrado still suspended for this game? Was it a 2-match or a 1-match suspension?
He got one.
Okay.
I believe he's qualified to play against Milan. But that's my lineup. And then up top, if Morata's fit, Morata and Ronaldo. If he isn't, then it is Dybala. But that's how I'd line them up.
I pretty much agree with everything. I'd argue Cuadrado in still. Maybe Chiesa on the left, even though I know he's better on the right. I'd still argue Cuadrado in there. He has had his moments this season to get it into the box. I personally still like Cuadrado. I would
wait a second. We were wrong. 3-game ban. Thank you.
Really?
I missed that. I thought he got 1. Oh, no, that was right. Yeah. So he's up. That's okay, though.
Interesting.
So Chiesa gets in there.
Yeah, then 100%
across the middle, because I put Bentancur, Arthur, and Ramsey. What's your middle?
Yeah, I put Bentancur. I was torn between Artur and Rabiot. I'd probably go. I really want to see Artur just with a trusted start. I want to see him get in there. 100% Khedira is making my lineup. 100%.
RB comes throwing bombs out here. Holy Khedira. Who?
Oh man, no.
Chiesa better than Cuadrado. RB comps just getting the bombs out there. Love it.
Oh man. No, Khedira's out. I used to like Khedira as well. When I understood how much wage bills impacted clubs, that's when I realized, oh no, Khedira needs to leave.
So sorry, yes, Cuadrado's suspended. Morata's in question. And the big thing too, this is a bit of a shit show.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what the hell's happening with Rabiot. And apparently, he's not being played in this one. He wasn't played in the last match, and now all of a sudden, I guess he is suspended for the Milan game. It's what's going on there? Unbelievable. It's so weird. Just piss poor management of that whole scenario after the appeal, and even the Napoli appeal win was a shit show. So anyways, we've talked about these lineups here, and what do you think's going to happen? Are we going to win this match?
Oh, it's so tough. I cannot see Juve messing this up. If they mess this up, that means Milan is the real deal. And, this is really the match to see, do they have what it takes to challenge for the Scudetto? So, you got to beat the best to be the best. And every team for the last 9 years, when it came down to it, they bottled against us. They couldn't handle the pressure. I remember Roma went on a 10-match win streak in 2015, and they came and played us, and we crushed them 3-0. I don't think we're the same Juve we were back then. Talent-wise, I think we potentially are higher, but consistency, no. I think it'll be tight of a game, but I do think we'll make it through. Whether that's from I don't know, just some real tight something. It's going to be a really close game, and there's going to be one settling move. I think it'll be a 2-1, whether that's a mistake from one of us or from them, but it's going to be a real tight match.
I think it's going to be 2-1, but then the winning team will pull away to 3-1.
Okay.
And it's going to be Juventus. We're going to win this match. It's going to be 3-1. And we won't lose. Ibrahimovic is in doubt. I don't think Ibra's playing. They might also be missing Benacer.
Tonali just got a red card today as well, so they'd be missing both their holders.
So I just don't see us dropping this game. I think the Juve we want will show. I think Ronaldo come out with a strong statement saying we're going to lead the San Siro with a victory. And he started off the season with a bang. I look for him to, bring it as expected, as he should. I see us winning this. 3-1. Everybody listening right now, all you guys drop your predictions here on the side, and we're going to have a little fun trivia. Juve and Milan have met 217 times.
Okay.
86 wins going to Juve, 62 to Milan, 69 ending in draws. But who can name the all-time goal-scoring leader in the history of this fixture? If anybody figured this out or named it, I would lose my. I would give you guys some striped hearts apparel because it would be so mind blowing if you could do this, and obviously without the assistance of Google. But man, he played for both sides, but it's far, far beyond our time. Jose Altafini with 14 goals in the history of this fixture. Man, unbelievable. 14. He's the leader.
Wow.
Yeah, so, man, there you have it. There's your little piece of trivia. RB Comp's coming in with Juve 2, Milan 1. I agree, but I think we'll pull away with the 3-1. Vishwajit, maybe a draw 1-1 or a 2-1, and whoever breaks the deadlock first scores more easily. So a little uncertainty there, but as far as the starting lineups go, I think we're kind of in agreement on the base of what we saw today. We kind of had discrepancies based on keeping and just based on the defense we would use. But across the middle is the question mark, and I think it's still very, very hard to tell who has got the top spot in our midfield. The argument can be made for anyone, and that's a tough thing. But I think the only one that's got that all and out clear is Ramsey, because nobody else can be that creative force up top. I just don't see it out of any of the other guys. Rabiot's solid and physical box to box, but he fails in the final third, as does Bentancur. McKennie's overall really good balance. He's solid at ball winning. So do you put him in there? It's very, very interesting. Milan plays a very good counter game based on their setup. They'll be able to counter very, very quickly. So we have to be very, very careful about who we play. Does that call for McKennie to be in there and his ball-winning abilities in the middle and his pressure to not give those guys enough time to set up or whatnot? Yeah. It's going to be interesting. If Dybala has to play again and we try this, in and out between him and Ramsey, they have to shore up the defensive coverage when that happens, because Milan will be able to counter so quickly. And if we're as shaky as we were at the back today, they'll punish us. They won't do what Udinese did. They will punish us. I actually could say that
it's
even without Ibrahimovic.
Yeah, it's their game.
So we've really got to figure that out, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see. But across the middle, you can make the call for any one of those guys. I personally, right now, Bentancur's on an upswing. I'd go Benta. Arthur, for his ability to relieve us from the press. At the back, Bonucci scares me, man. I'm just going to be honest.
Do you think Bonucci would have a good game because it's Milan?
I honestly don't have any idea when Bonucci will have a good game.
Other than Buffon,
whether it's Milan or not, I have no idea. I honestly don't think it'll happen unless there's somebody else calling the shots and giving the guy directions. So that guy is Buffon. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of arguments that could be made for the lineups, but honestly, if we lined up the same, I'd expect the same, even if we line up the exact same as we did today. We just have to shore up that defensive, and I don't see how it happens with Bonucci at the back. I don't see it, man. So I'm scared about that. But
I wouldn't put him in. Yeah.
we will see what happens. This is a big one. This is a match we've been anticipating for quite some time as Milan has found ways to get the job done. We talked about Tonali getting the red card today. They go down a man. They find a way. They lose Ibrahimovic, Benacer to injuries. They have Theo Hernandez suspended. They find ways. We keep looking for these points dropped. The thing is, we got to stop looking for them dropping points. We got to get our shit together because we literally have to play all these clubs twice still.
100%.
It's up to us, and it starts with this one against Milan. So, as always, we're going to do another live, and it's going to be before it's actually going to be on match day, very, very early my time, probably like 4:30 a.m., but we're going to start breaking down on the projected lineups. We're going to break into the stories leading into that one. And then, of course, another first-time guest for the post-match podcast. And we may even do it live again. I want to take the time to thank you, Josh, for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I want to take the time to thank everybody who's taken part and interacted on this live podcast. I'm looking to do many, many more lives this season. I thank you all again for the support. I want to congratulate the winners of the jerseys. I reached 4K followers on Twitter. Thank you very much. I'm just shy of 500 subscribers on YouTube, so if you're tuning in, please subscribe. There's going to be a lot of cool lives coming at you. But thanks again for all the support. Those jerseys, the Delict home and the Chiesa away, were shipped out. Congratulations to Abdul and Marcus. Those will be arriving to you probably in about 5 to 7 days. Shipping is a nightmare because of the circumstances with the pandemic, but they're en route. Congratulations. Thank you again, everybody, for the support. Josh, thank you. It's super late where you're at. We ran a little bit longer than anticipated, but I appreciate it, man. It's been an absolute pleasure. We will do this again.
Love it.
And any last words, Josh, before we sign off?
Well, it was an honor being on the show, honor talking about Juve. So I think we can only leave it out on a big Fino alla fine, Forza Juve, and let's go crush Milan.
That's right. Forza Juve, Fino alla fine. It ain't over. They're going to fight, just like Gigi, the GOAT, said. Talk to you all later in the week as we get ready for Milan. Ciao.